Welcome back, Guardians. J-Rod Plays here. This video we're going to be covering the seasonal prep that I'll be doing for Season 21, Season of the Deep. It's almost here. As recording this video, it's like a week and a few days away. So what I'm going to be doing is just kind of tying up all my loose ends for the season and pretty much show how I do that. Basically, it's going to run through four categories: bounty prep, material prep, finishing the seasonal challenges, and then seasonal weapons that are leaving. I'm going to cover the overview and what I do, kind of what I use, the tools that I use to make sure that I'm fully ready for next season in this first part, and then I'll go through each one separately in their own subsections. But basically, the main goal is to try to make sure that you're carrying as much XP over into the next season by storing up bounties now. If you just started, you're going to be a little bit behind because the Ascended challenges that you can get from Petra, those you can actually get one a week, and I believe there's like 6 or 7 challenges that you can stock up, so you'll be short a little bit of XP, but it's not a huge deal. Let me see, just take a look here, and I'm going to bring up the tool that I use the most. It's going to be the Destiny Recipes checklist. So the Destiny Recipes checklist here will show me the cost of the bounties as far as XP wise, and so it's only a 6,000 XP difference when you're bringing those up for the Destiny Recipes setup. And again, it's destinyrecipes.com, and I'll leave this this website in the description. That way you can hop to it, and it's got a really great prep tool because it'll show you kind of a leaderboard based on how it thinks you're prepared, how many resources you've stored up, how much XP you've stored up, how much vault space you've cleared, which it's always going to be low for me because I stock a ton of weapons. You can see that you want to have at least a minimum amount of shards based on the recommendation. Buy upgrade modules in that last week, kind of max that out. Try to make sure you have plenty of cores, which is next season is going to be amazing that we're going to be able to turn in some of our materials to get cores instead of having to go and farm the cores, and I'll show you that in a second too. Try to max out your enhancement prisms on each character. This week is a good week if you're still watching it when the video is released because it's double loot, so you can get plenty of shards. You can get 10 shards in your inventory and 10 shards in your character's inventory per character. And then enhancement prisms, of course, you can carry 50 in your inventory and then 50 per character. So if you want to go out and grind out where you're trying to get the buzzard and switch characters in between, that way you can make sure that you're maxing out how much materials you have. If you are somebody who's usually low on materials, for me, I've done a pretty good job of maintaining a balance where I don't have to store a lot of materials. I kind of only keep the 10 shards, and then if I need some shards, I can go run some GMs and knock that out when it's time. You can also come in here and you can look at weapons that you're targeting. You can also come in here and you can clean out your bank. So if you're going to the Vault Cleaner section, it'll show you which weapons are meta. It'll give you ratings. Of course, you want to double check because it's not always up to date and everybody's got a little flavor on what they like to use. And then this part here, the Power Progress section, will help you when you're leveling up your characters if you're still doing that grind. Thankfully, next season, people who've already maxed out their level won't have to dig back in and max out their level again. So it's going to be a nice transition to just playing the game instead of having to grind another 10 power level. So going into the bounties, as you can see here, it weighs the bounties based on XP, and each bounty has its certain amount of XP that is assigned to it, and I'll show you that in the actual game. A weekly bounty you'll see has XP++. A regular bounty is just going to be XP plus. So this is a 12,000 XP bounty, and this is a 6,000 XP bounty. You don't want to run the daily bounties that give you usually Bright Dust. Those are only going to be for 3,000, and they're going to take up valuable slots unless you run out of all other possible bounties. And you can get bounties in a number of ways, and I'll be going through that, kind of where to gather the bounties and how to get them. But essentially you can go to vendors like Failsafe, for example. You're going to go to the moon and you're going to pick up bounties from Eris. She'll have weekly bounties as well. You're going to have bounties at Variks on Europa, and these are going to be important bounties. Just to touch on them, because the Divine Intervention bounty right now for the Dark Priestess Empire hunt will change next week, so you'll actually be able to get 2 of his weekly bounties plus the regular Courageous Expedition bounty that you can get, much in the same way that you can get many of the bounties from Petra for Ascendant challenges. Each week's got a different Ascendant challenge, so that'll change. That way you can stack up a couple of big bounties there, and then you can do a couple of Ascendant challenges and kind of go from there. You want to make sure that you're completing all of your challenges as well, so that way you can carry over as much bright dust as possible. So next week we'll have double reputation gains for the vendors. In this case, that'll help you get to a second reset to get your ornament for the seasonal ritual weapon. And as you can see, I still haven't done them for either Gambit or the Vanguard. And then I haven't also done competitive, so if I wanted to get additional bright dust, I could, and that'll help also when you complete your 72 challenges. You get a large chunk of bright dust there too, and that's going to be a good thing to save up, because next season it looks to have some pretty sweet armor, and hopefully they're not going to be a silver armor. They're going to be actually bright dust armor, instead of having to deal with paying silver for all the good armors at times. This season has had like 1 or 2 good weeks where like some of the stuff was really cool and you can scoop up some nice things for bright dust, but for the most part I was personally disappointed in the season. Outside of like cool shaders and things like that you could pick up, there really wasn't a lot that super interests me, and I really wasn't a fan of this event armor and the way that everything looks. I really like last season's armor much better than this season's armor. So the only thing I could say that's probably good for silver is to give him the chair, because there's some interactions with certain items and weapons that will allow you to debuff enemies by chunking an enemy at them and throwing an enemy at them and such. This is the only useful thing for silver, but again, I don't know that I'll spend silver on that. I still have to kind of decide next week if I really want to grab it. But other than that, this is pretty much the main section as we're talking about, again, bounties and materials. I'm going to move into just an overview of the seasonal weapons as well that are leaving before I go and get more in depth on bounties and materials in the next section. So you want to make sure that you don't lose out on any of your rank rewards that are available still, because those are going to be weapons that you can pick up that are not going to be available to pick up next season. You have your Defiant Engrams that you'll come into the engram to decode, so that way you can get red borders for your sword for your class and also for the shotgun that's available. You also want to make sure that you are upgrading your war table so that you're getting the red borders. I believe that's here. Let me see. Yep, the deep sight decoding. So the first season of the Defiance weapon you decode each week will have a deep sight resonance. Once that's upgraded, you can come in here once a week and you can get 2 of these patterns to hopefully finish out your patterns. If they do like last season, next week might have 1 per day, so that way you can knock out at least 1 or 2 patterns that you may still be lacking on. And of course you can always just drop your Defiant Engrams in here and hope to get lucky on patterns, or you can pick specifically the one that you want over and over again until you get that, but you'll have to have a ton of Defiant Engrams for that, and you have to run like a Defiant Engram farm over and over again, so that way you can come in here and get the patterns. And the reason why you want to get these is because next season Bungie is limiting the amount of resonances that you can add to specific weapons that they're going to allow deep sight patterns for that are no longer attainable, but you may have a copy. So like, let's say I grab a copy of the Regnant and I didn't already have it. Next season, if I really needed this particular grenade launcher because it was meta, I could take that copy that I had and I could put a deep sight on it using one of the materials from the season pass, and that will allow me to then take that pattern, and hopefully you only require 1 deep sight to get the pattern. I hope it's not 5. If it is 5, that would be pretty bad on Bungie's part. So my idea, that the way that they're kind of discussing it, is you just need 1 pattern, and then you add 1 deep sight, you extract the deep sight, you get the pattern, and then you have the weapon. You can go to the crafting ritual on the Mars, the crafting relic, should I say, and then make your Regnant the way that you want it. But the main ones that I would focus on are the Royal Executioner. It's got some nice rolls. The Perpetualis, which is I was using in my Nightfall videos when I was doing the Guardian Games Nightfalls, and it's a really nice weapon. It was really good this season because of the overloaded auto, and it may be barrier next season. So anyway, it's a good synergy with the Strand builds, and I would definitely recommend making sure you get Perpetualis, at least if you were going to kind of like target and say, okay, which ones are the important ones. But Prodigal Return's kind of there's a lot of other good grenade launchers out there. Regnant is very good. The Caretaker's got a fun role that may or may not be useful, but these are the 3 that I would focus on: Royal Executioner, Perpetualis, and Regnant. The other ones are just kind of meh. And of course, if you just wanted the aesthetic of the armor this season, you want to make sure you pick up at least 1 of each of these. And if you're trying to get the Season of Defiance triumphs, there is something as well for focusing one of those as well per slot for the armor slot, which I wasn't really too enthused about. I didn't really care about. But as far as, again, for the challenges, you also want to make sure that you're going through and you're kind of double dipping when you're farming. Pick up bounties that will apply to the challenges. These bounties here you're going to be using up, though. You're not going to actually hold on to these bounties because, as you see, it says here that these bounties will expire at the Season of Defiance. Same thing with the bounties that you're getting from Eva for the event. Those bounties are also going to expire. I think like a few seasons ago I made the mistake of trying to carry over some of the bounties from the Solstice. And so that I made that mistake and I lost out on some XP. It wasn't a ton, but it was still enough that it was annoying. Especially because I think I was holding on to like weekly bounties and I didn't get the Bright Dust from those weekly bounties, so I was super annoyed. But that's pretty much the seasonal weapons that you want to look out for the war table that's going away next season. And those are the ones that are my recommendations. From here I'm going to get into more of the bounty setup, as well as kind of the materials, so that way you know kind of where to get the materials and the best farms for them for the current season. Okay, quick overview of the materials and the ones you're going to carry through. So the Rainmaker next season, that's going to be converted into a Glimmer consumable, so you don't have to worry about burning these for now. I'm actually saving them up again. That's why I've almost got a full stack, because it's going to be a nice way to carry over Glimmer in the bank to exceed your Glimmer cap. Same thing with the Finest Matter Weaves. Fantastic change finally that we can just turn them in to create a core instead of having to go and try to kill red borders again and again on the moon, or red borders, but the orange enemies, the elite enemies on the moon over and over again to try to get these converted. You want to make sure you max out your raid banner so that you're ready for the raid and the dungeon. And then from here you're going to also want to make sure that you are stocking up again on your enhancement prisms and your Ascendant Shards. These are going to be from the current GM that's out right now. The best way to farm that is this week. Next week it'll be fine too, because you'll be getting the double reputation gain, so that'll help you when you're trying to reset your Vanguard rank, but you'll only be getting like one Ascendant Shard and like a few Enhancement Prisms instead of like 10 Enhancement Prisms and like 2 Ascendant Shards from the double loot drops that we're getting right now. So those are going to be the best sources, is the current GM. And for those if you're new, this is the Grandmaster Nightfall here, and you'll just click on the Nightfall, you get your team set up, you make sure to set up your surges and your weapons based on the surges. Overcharge doesn't stack with the surge, but let's say you're running a grenade launcher that's not a strand or a solar surge, it'll still get its 25% bonus, so just to give you a little more flexibility. And then of course you have to make sure that you are set up for the champion, so that you're not the one person that everybody dies and you can't stop the champion because you just didn't bring the anti-champion mod. And speaking of that, another reason that we're trying to stock up on these things and get ready is because the idea is behind the bounty farming and behind getting everything ready is that the Ascendant Scepter this season is going to change, and then you're going to start all over again. And by turning in all the bounties and by being prepared, you're going to get further along in these without having to sink time into getting bounties done, because you're already going to be doing the new bounties when you turn in the current bounties. So the bounties that you have to do for the season anyways are going to put you further along in this, so that you can unlock abilities quicker. And having your inventory stocked, you don't have to continually go back to the tower until your bank gets full, or should I say, my bank is my postmaster, until your postmaster gets full, and that'll prevent you from having downtime. I also have some strand meditations that I happen to have extra. I'm not sure if they're going to require us to go back to Neomuna to get the strand meditations, to come back in here and go back to the Hall of Heroes, but I have some stocked up just in case, so that I can buy the new aspects whenever they come out, and fragments. And then the next thing you're also going to want to make sure that you're doing is farming the story. So the weekly mission right now is First Contact. It's a pretty fast mission. You can actually run through it really quickly with a team. It's the easiest one to run through. If we get lucky and it's like random and it happens to be Breakneck again one more time, Breakneck you can actually do through the immunity glitch and get that over and over again. But the best way that I've seen to get these is to do the Master over and over again and just try to burn through them, because you get common Ascendant alloys and you're pretty much guaranteed an alloy per So that's the easiest way that I know of to get the Ascendant Alloy outside of Rahul. You can also go to Rahul and buy one for 400 legendary shards. That's pretty steep for new players though, so if you're new, I wouldn't necessarily sink 400 shards into that because it's going to be hard to replenish those. I would just go through and make sure that you're getting a good team and getting it done through the Neomuna weekly mission that way, just over and over again. Other than that, I don't really think that there's any super important additional materials. People like to stock up Paraversal Halls, but that was when you were able to level your gear, so this is just going to be kind of like an extra filling your inventory, and all the other stuff again are extras for me. Make sure to spend your Defiant Keys. If you have a stock of Defiant Keys and you're trying to get the additional items like we talked about, you're trying to get the additional weapons and things unlocked, so you want to make sure that you're spending your Defiant Keys. And really, you don't have to spend your terminal overload keys, but that'll help if you're trying to get some additional weapons that you're trying to prepare for next season because you don't have certain ones. The terminal overload weapons were great initially, but they got quickly overshadowed by the weapons that released behind them. So really, I had the terminal overload weapons, and the only one that I still use is the LMG. I use that for GMs whenever there's like a strand or a machine gun, overcharge, and I'm using that as my primary pretty much with a suspend build, and so that's the only one that I was using personally. Other than that, let's move on to the bounties themselves. I'm going to go over specifically the bounty sections, so that way you can kind of get an idea on how I set up my bounties, and just cover one more time the bounty section again in the Destiny Recipes website. That way there's no confusion, and it's not just like a quick, hey, look at this. I'm going to go through it point by point. That way you guys understand exactly my thought process behind it. Alright, now this is the bounty portion of the video where I'm going to go specifically into how you're supposed to maximize your XP and the way that you'll go about utilizing the XP in the next season. Now, as you can see here, the inventory maximum is 63. This counts both your quests that you get on the left side of your screen and your bounty screen, I'll show you in a little bit, and your bounties themselves. Now, the key is to not overfill on your main character. So you technically can overfill the other two characters, your Titan and your Warlock in this case, the Titan and the Hunter in this case for me, since I'm my main on my Warlock. As you can see, I've got more bounties on him right now. I can fill him up to 60, that way I have 3 slots just in case I get an exotic weapon quest right away. I get a actual quest for the season, and then some side quest. That gives me a little bit of room that I don't have to worry about somehow like not getting the quest and bugging and maybe locking progress. So that's always a good measure to not fill up all the way on your main character. You can technically fill up on your Hunter and your Titan if these are your 2 side characters. So your 2 side characters, you can get all 63 filled up, and the way you'll do that is you're going to delete all of your bounties that you're not your bounties, your quests that you're not done with for the season just yet, and then you're going to have just empty quests on the left and then nothing but bounties on the right. And on your main character, you want to make sure that you're also kind of clearing out those quests just to make sure they don't hang around and cause a problem down the road. Now, I'm going to go over the vendors and I'll kind of pull them up as you see them here. So starting on the Warlock, kind of giving the tour, you're looking at on the moon with Eris, you're going to get 2 weekly bounties, and then you're going to get 2 weekly bounties from the relic next to Eris. From there, you can pick up the quests that correspond to them. And so as you can see here, this one is like defeat nightmares in the lost sectors. This one is generate orbs and nightmare hunts, which you're going to have to do to finish out one of these. You can defeat combats in that nightmare hunt with solar damage. And then this one here, you can do the K1 Communion. That's going to be part of Eris's Lunar Splunker. So they all kind of match up. Same thing here. I got fusion rifle kills while doing that. I got an energy weapon kill while doing that with rapid kills. Killed Fallen on the way over to one of the lost sectors. And so that's kind of how I maximize my time. I'll pick up the bounties that are corresponding to the planet, and then I'll pick up bounties that will correspond with them, and then I knock them out right away. You can technically go planet to planet, and you can pick up all the bounties in one go, and then go about kind of figuring out how you want to link them up and knock them out as well. But that's just what works for me. So from there, the next thing you're looking at is Full Spectrum and Public Disturbance. These are with Shaw Han. He's going to be the first person that you see when you land in the Cosmodrome if you're new. He's going to have 2 bounties there for you, the weekly bounties, and then you'll have some additional bounties that you can pick up that are super easy. It's just like punch 5 things, kill things with your super. Like these are kind of starters for new players, so these are going to be really easy to finish while you're there. From here, you're going to go and looks at Europa. These are the next 2 that you'll see here. This is Divine Intervention. This will be kill Critis and then go and do precision damage. The way that I do this one is I'll run through it once with a team just on regular heroic difficulty, just speed through it to get the kill on Critis fast, and then I'll go back by myself solo on Legend or Master, and then you can get headshot kills there, and they count for more since it's higher difficulty progress, and there's nobody there to steal them from you. So that's how I complete that one. Now this one you can actually get multiples. It changes each week. There's 3 different bosses. And so right now, if you were to get it today, the video should be releasing on Sunday. You can technically get 1 this week, and then when it resets on Tuesday, the final reset, you can get 1 next week. That way you'll end up with 3 bounties that are 12k from the Varix bounty. And the next one is, of course, the Courageous Expedition. That one's just complete lost sectors, public events, patrols, just kind of do whatever on the planet, and you'll knock this one out. As you can see, I've already got 2 of the boss ones, and I'm just waiting on my 3rd. Now, after that is the Ascendant Challenge. The reason I'm not mentioning the Vex Incursion is because not everybody may have this, but if you do, you can hold on to the Vex Incursion one where you go and you get shellcode fragments and the Vex Incursion, and that's just the one thing you can get from Neomuna that's worth 12k. Now, the Ascendant Challenges, you can actually get starting 6 or 7 weeks earlier. I think there's like 6 or 7, I can't remember exactly. But each week the Ascendant Challenge changes, and every time it changes, this bounty will come up. So the same thing as the Europa bounties, when you're doing the bounties, you can go and talk to the vendor in the Dreaming City, and then from there you can actually take Petra's Ascendant Challenge and the Gateway Between Worlds. And the Gateway Between Worlds, you just go and you do the Blind Well. You do the Blind Well twice on the higher difficulty, so you get a tier 3 charge from her, and then you buy an unstable charge from her, which you can buy directly from her inventory. And then when you go in there, it should match you with like 2 or 3 other people usually that are doing it, especially now that everybody's bounty prepping. You do 2 full runs, you do your tier 3, and then you hit your unstable at the end, kill the additional boss. That'll give you 50%, so you do 2 of them, and that'll get that done. And then, of course, your Ascendant Challenge each week, you'll have an opportunity to get 2 of these before the next season. After that, you're looking at the Star Horse bounty. You can get the farthest bounty to the right if you want better materials, or you can just buy one of the lower bounties that are easier to do. They're more specific. Usually these are fairly easy to do on Legend. You just run around with Gjallarhorn or your favorite rocket launcher, just blasting things, and that'll get you your power weapon kills. And then you can have a nice like ability spam build, like the Hunter build that I have a video on. The Titan abilities, you get a lot of ability kills if you're running Titan. And for my Warlock Suspend Strand build would be nice because I get a lot of melee kills that way with the abilities, and then supers will count too, I believe. Then from there, once you've killed everything off here and you've done all the associated bounties, what you're left with is trying to fill the remainder of the bounties with these 6k bounties. So like the Neomuna has 4 that'll show up every week, or actually, technically, I think they reset every day, these 6k bounties. Same thing with any of the planetary bounties. Gambit bounties, you can do Crucible bounties, you can do Vanguard bounties, as long as they're not the non-plus bounties. And so what that's going to look like here is if you look at my Titan, you'll see that this is an XP plus bounty. The XP plus bounty is a normal 6k bounty, but then you have these Bright Dust bounties, which just have XP. These are only going to give 3k, so you want to fill up with these and not these. These I'll turn in before I finish out my bounty prep, and then I'm going to fill them up with additional XP plus, which are the 6k bounties, the 4 that you can get daily that reset daily, and then of course these are the XP plus plus bounties, which are the 12k bounties. That's how you can tell which bounties are which. And so the idea is you just kind of go around the planets, and if you're running out of, for example, time and you need some additional bounties and you're not getting them from the Vanguard bounties, you're not getting the Crucible bounties, you can always run to Nessus. You can speak with Failsafe. You can always go to the EDZ, and you can go to Trostland and get bounties from Devon K. And these are going to be simple bounties, like get kills with your super, get kills with a specific type of weapon. Just very easy bounties to knock out. You can also go to Finch. Finch has some additional bounties, and I have a couple of those on my Titan that I was running to fill out some bounties for me since I'm running out of time, and I want to make sure that I fill my Titan up. And then, of course, when we're talking about these quests, this is what I was referring to. So right now, I have my 45 quests, but out of this 45, these are going to count as 2. And so if I have 62 bounties, for example, that's going to be too many. It's not going to let me pick up an additional bounty because I have too many, because that'll put me at 63 with these quests next season. So I can probably delete this one here. Getting rid of this one. This one's going to automatically delete itself at the end of the Guardian games, but I can delete that too if I don't feel like going through it real fast and getting a free Taraxipos roll, which I probably will next week. And once you have this clean and this is empty, you can fill these up all the way to 63 on your side character, and that's pretty much the setup. As far as anything specific as far as bounties goes, it doesn't really matter where you get them, so do the ones that you prefer. Like, if you hate Gambit, you don't have to do Gambit bounties. If you don't like doing the Gunsmith bounties, you don't have to, but I will do the Gunsmith bounties. And one thing to mention on the Gunsmith bounties is that his 4 bounties reset every day, and they also give you Gunsmith reputation. And so for me, the Gunsmith, I've almost got to the point where I'll get a free shard here in a little bit at rank 16 and then reset. I'm going to do that first, so I'm still going to do every day all 4 bounties on all 3 of my characters to push my Gunsmith's bounties all the way up, so that way I can reset him. Once I've reset him, though, every day after that, I'm going to do the bounties, and any new bounty that I haven't already done, I'm going to save that bounty as a 6k bounty, because those are nice, since next season, when everything starts over and all the ranks reset and all your vendors, you'll get immediate resources that you can pick up from the Gunsmith, and also new guns, because you'll get the Gunsmith engrams, which will drop you guns for that season, whichever world guns have been moved into his pool next season. And so that's pretty much the kind of the long of it, since we've already kind of given you like a summary in the prior section of the video. That's the long way to do as far as the bounty prep. Now let's talk about how you're going to utilize it. So the reason why anybody does the bounty prep in the first place is the season pass and the relic. And so the relic, the important thing about the relic is that these abilities here at the end, they tend to be the most powerful kind of build changing abilities. This season we really didn't have that. Threaded Blast was probably the only one that really stood out as far as like, man, that makes a big difference in PvP and in PvE. And then the Rain of Firebolts was nice, getting that second grenade. So these were the 2 big game-changing abilities, build-changing abilities here. And of course, the flare-up on top of the Rain of Fireballs is what made that such a nice combo. The Void Weapon channeling was kind of a waste. Medieval Champion I use quite a bit, actually. I really like using the Glaze because they have that ability to save yourself when you're taking a bunch of damage, or push up and res a teammate in a GM. That way you can kind of tank damage from an overload coming at you or something like that. And if you're running swords and you like running swords, you're a sword person, there you go. You can just beat down the overloads right then and there. I was using it for Unstoppable personally. And then Prismatic Transfer was fine whenever you were running some off class. I had particular for this week's GM. I was farming this GM and I was running Stasis, so I was running Prismatic Transfer to give that to my teammates. They would get that buff and we could help mow through things and cut down a little bit on our time. And so you don't want to spend any of your bounties on your primary character. If you can avoid it first, you want to start dumping your secondary character's bounties once you can pick up the relic. So you do the quests as soon as you start the season, get to the point where you unlock the relic, and then you start dumping bounties, either on your main character. If you need to make room, I probably will have to make like 5 or 6 slots for the seasonal bounties, whichever the new bounties are for that season. And of course, I'll probably dump the Gunsmith bounties early. That way I can get the next day's Gunsmith bounties and get them done as I'm playing the game. And the reason that we're doing this is to get seasonal rank high as well. So seasonal rank is going to give you your weapon for the season. You're going to get a lot of resources that you'll be using throughout the season, Bright Dust and things, but you'll also be getting the XP boosts. And that's crucial. Now, in the beginning, your Fireteam XP boost, which you give to other people, is not going to be as important, so don't stress that too much. I know a lot of players, and even myself included in the beginning, would try to join up groups on destinations to try to get their Fireteam bonus and turn in for that extra 2%, but it's really not worth the hassle to me anymore to try to track somebody down and be in their fire team. Now, if you're leveling with somebody already and you play the game with your buddies, Perfect. You guys share this. You give him your 2%. He'll give you his 2% as you guys are leveling up together. And then with the small XP boost, that's always going to apply to you. And so once you hit that small XP boost, then you can start dumping the rest of your 6K bounties. And then once you get your next XP boost from here, then I would start dumping the bigger bounties. That way you get all those done in a row, and you're essentially getting ahead, and you're getting these weapons unlocked. You're getting engrams for the season. You're getting the skins, things that are more kind of like a chip on, or should I say like a medal you wear them, like a medal, like when you have the seasonal skins, like 4 days, 5 days in, and you're already wearing the full seasonal skins, and everybody's like, how in the hell? Well, it was because you were bounty prepping and you were grinding. And so that's one thing that we normally do. Also, we save the armor. We don't take the armor this season. We take it next season. But you don't have to worry about doing that anymore if you're done leveling up. However, these armors are important if you aren't fully leveled up, especially because they're removing sources for the engrams so that you can get levels past 1800. So when you're trying to get your... oh God, I'm spacing on the name for it. When you're trying to get your pinnacle gear, the pinnacle gear itself is going to have less sources next season. And so what we would used to do is we would grind and grind and grind, and then if we knew that we were a few points off by using the Destiny Destiny Recipes website that I'm posting to you guys, there's a power level indicator that'll show you where to get your powerful sources and which item is behind. So let's say the only thing holding me back from gaining a next level from a drop is a mark. If I picked up this next season using the link to pick up previous season items, and I'll also try to include that if I can find a good link in the description of the video. If you pick that up, that'll put you to where the next powerful pinnacle drop will actually give you that next one level up. So your powerfuls will drop at light, which will help push other items that are behind up, and then your pinnacles will drop 2 higher or 3 higher, depending on how strong the pinnacle is, pushing you even further next to the next pinnacle level. So save your armor if you're not done leveling up. If not, it doesn't matter. You can pick it up, you can leave it. You can always get this in the past seasons. I thought last season they were going to get rid of the ability to go back to the past seasons, but nope, sure enough, I can go all the way back to the very beginning when it was first being tracked using the add-on on your browser that you can use to get that. So from here, if you have any additional questions, if there's anything that maybe I haven't covered, or if you're not super clear on some of the steps, you can always reach out in the comments, and I do see most of my comments. I do get kind of busy sometimes from dealing with health issues. I may get a little bit behind on the comments, but I do try to answer the comments that are like actual, valid comments, valuable comments. And I appreciate your feedback as well. Thanks very much to the new subscribers as over the last few days. We've had plenty of new subscribers, so welcome, guys. I really appreciate it. And as you'll see, I'll have like a variety of content to kind of keep you guys busy, killing time in between some of these slower moments of the season. Other than that, thanks very much for watching the video all the way to the end. You guys have a good time bounty prepping for the end of the season, and I'll see you guys next season.